So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will be discussing for today introduction to explosives and its effects. Okay, so we'll be dealing with the different types of explosives. So, what again are explosives? These are any substance which, when subjected to heat, shock, impact, or friction, can undergo a very rapid self-propagating decomposition or combustion, transformed into a more stable material, gas, characterized by the liberation of tremendous amount of heat formation of gas, and sudden release of pressure that resulted to violent explosion. Okay, so that's the definition of our explosives. It can detonate through introduction of heat or shock or impact or friction. Yan. So, ano ba yung friction? When you say friction, yan yung parang nangyayari sa, tawag dito, sa matches, di ba? Anong tagal ng match? Match? Yung commando match, ganun, di ba? Friction yon. Pagka ginasgas mo, mag-aapoy. Yan. Impact naman, or shock, yan naman yung pagka nauntog yung initiator. Diba? Yung parang alam nyo yung paputok na ibinabalon nyo sa 38 na parang what we call this? The, hindi siya pellet gun eh. Yung gun na tumutunog pero walang balang lumalabas, pumuputok. Yan. Di ba? Pagka kin-extract nyo yun, tapos minartilyo nyo, may susasabog. Even matches, di ba? Yung black powder nung matches, kunin nyo, ilagay nyo sa papel, tapos martilyohin nyo. True yan, yun ang impact. At siya, puputok, sasabog yun, di ba? At susunog. Or heat. Yan, so pagka-explosive, nilapit mo sa heat, hanggang sa naabot na yung kanyang ignition point, sasabog. Di ba? Heat. So that's the explosives. So we have here types of explosion. We have mechanical explosion, explosion. We have nuclear explosion, electrical explosion, and chemical explosion. So one of the example of our chemical explosion is the mixing of substance shaken together and at certain seconds sasabog, di ba? Electrical naman, uh, yan yung mga battery operated. Okay? Pagka naman mechanical, most of our improvised explosive devices are done operating through mechanical means, di ba? Kaya siya tinawag na mechanical explosion din. And we also have your nuclear explosion through the through the fission or fusion of nuclear material. So, mechanical explosion. When pressure inside container overcomes the strength of the container, causing it to rupture. So, we have here an example, the air compressor, the gas cylinder tank, and the bleed. Diba? So, alam nyo na yung bleed na encounter nyo na sa arson investigation nyo. So, that's an example of your mechanical explosion. So, what again is its example? Gunpowder, okay? So let's say for example, gunpowder contained in a metal container. So meron in an enclosed area. Tapos fully sealed, okay? Fully sealed yung container. Ilalagay natin sa yeah, ilalagay natin sa anything that produces heat hanggang sa maabot niya yung ignition point niya, mag-aapoy, masusunog yung mga gunpowder sa loob. Tapos, if there exists large amount of pressure, sasabog yung container. Di ba? So, mechanical explosion. The simplest example for mechanical explosion is just like what's happening to your ammunitions when firing a gun, di ba? Parang ganun din ang mechanical explosion. So, the gunpowder is enclosed in the shell. Yan. And with the introduction of an impact from the hammer, impact from the hammer to the firing pin and firing pin to the priming mixture, the priming mixture will burn, will pass through the anvil, and it will also burn the gunpowder. The gunpowder will now be converted into a gas with tremendous amount of pressure and will now push the bullet, di ba? Away from the shell or away from the firearm. Diba? So parang ganyan din ang mechanical explosion. Another example of the mechanical explosion is boiling water. Diba? Boiling water, let's say for example, without leaking area. So tatakpan natin yung labasan ng hangin ng kumukulong tubig. Yan. So while the boiling water continues to boil, it will reach a certain time to which the pressure of that boiling water will be capable of producing an explosion. So pwede rin 'yon, di ba? Mechanical explosion din 'yan. Another example of mechanical explosion is yung mga septic tank, di ba? Yung mga septic tank. Minsan may mga gas na nabubuo doon sa septic tank from your bowels. Yan. So pagka na amount na naabot niyan yung certain amount, lalo na pagka walang singawan ha, yung septic tank, it may cause an explosion. Yan. So mechanical explosion din yan. So that's what we call yung septic tank biological, specifically biological siya eh. Di ba? Kasi galing sa tao. So biological explosion. So BLEVE again, by the way, stands for boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. So yung example nito is yung sinabi natin na tubig in itakore. Tapos yung takore, walang singawan ng hangin. Tinakpan mo lahat, di ba? So the water will continue to boil until it reach the certain pressure capable of producing an explosion. So a BLEVE is a type of mechanical explosion that involves vessels containing liquids under pressure at temperatures above their boiling point. Okay, so above the boiling point. Liquid need not be flammable, can occur in vessels as small as a disposable lighter and as large as a railroad tanker. Yan. So the liquid, by the way, again, does not need to be flammable. So pwedeng yung tap water. So if it continues to boil above its boiling point. We also have here nuclear or automatic explosion. The explosion produced by either nuclear fusion, the joining of atoms, or nuclear fission, the splitting of atoms. And we also have here electrical explosion. Oh, I forgot to mention the best example for electrical explosion is your thunder. So high energy electrical arc between electrical phases or between potential and ground. Mhm. Releasing large volumes of energy. And so electrical explosions. We also have an example of chemical explosion. So the very rapid or is instantaneous, so instant at that very moment, instantly, instant noodles, di ba? Kasi sinabi natin instant noodles, yung luto ka agad, madaling maluto. Yan, so instant din, madaling sumabog. The very rapid or instantaneous conversion of a solid or liquid compound into a larger quantities of expanding gases accompanied by heat, shockwave, and noise. So ano yung noise? Yun yung boom, yung pagsabog. Ano yung shockwave? Uh, yan yung pagtapon ng mga fragments. Okay? Tapos ano yung heat? Yan yung init caused by the explosion or burning. So we have lots of chemical explosives. Chemical explosives are materials containing sufficient fuel and oxygen to support extremely rapid combustion. Okay? So again, it contains sufficient fuel and oxygen to support extremely rapid combustion. So that's your chemical explosive. Explosive mixtures are mechanically blended. Okay? So mixtures nga mix, blending of chemical explosives. We also have here the term explosive compounds. It refers to chemical reaction bonding fuel and oxidizer into one molecule. Okay? So we call that explosive compounds. Chemical reaction bonding fuel and oxidizer into one molecule. And we also have the combustible materials contained in the explosive materials, which are fuel. So the combustible materials contained in the explosive material are fuel. Okay? So usually in mechanical explosives, the material are fuels, di ba? Fuels. So gasoline, kerosene, and so on and so forth. So we have here the term nuclear explosion. So we have here types of chemical explosives. We have low explosives. So these are normally chemical mixtures. It burns or deflagrate, and it requires confinement to explode. So when we say confinement to explode, parang yung sinasabi natin na dapat ma-confine muna sa isang closed container bago siya pwedeng sumabog. Now, if it is not confined, means to say, it will not explode. Okay? So, kailangan niya munang ma-confine bago sumabog. So, these are your low explosives. Unlike your high explosives, it does not need to be confined in a container. Kahit na hindi yan naka-confine, sasabog pa rin yan, di ba? So, high explosives, mostly yung mga yon. So, your low explosives burns or deflagrate. So, parang yung gunpowder, black powder. It burns. Parang yung mga pyrotechnics, di ba? Mga low explosives mga yun. It burns. So kinds of low explosives, we have black powder or smokeless powder, which looks like on which looks like the images on the screen. So we have here the ingredients: nitrocellulose, nitroglycerin, diphenylamine, ethyl centralite, rosin, polyester. And we also have the military commercial or time safety fuse. Okay? So your military fuse looks like this, ha? Green ang kulay niya. Unlike your commercial fuse, ganyan, orange. So the black powder is in the center. Same is true with the military fuse. Both has fiber wrap. So dark green plastic cover pagka military time fuse. Okay? Yan. So mostly in mining companies, Felix Mines, yan, ang ginagamit nila is of course this one, di ba? It is only the military who are authorized to use and purchase this type of fuse, the military time fuse, which has a color of dark green plastic cover. We have here propellant gunpowder, low explosive din yan. Yeah. And the pyro techniques, flares, and fireworks. So this one, by the way, are flares. Huh? So when you say flares, it produces lights. So meron siyang kanya-kanyang uri ng lights. Just like smoke grenades, di ba? May kanya-kanya ring uri ng smokes. And the flares, the different colors of these flares and the different colors of the smokes can be used sometimes in a specific operations. So pwede rin yan, instead of yelling, instead of calling one another, we can make use of signals. If we use blue smokes or blue flares, it may, depending on the plan, it may mean successful, di ba? If green smoke, it may mean proceed. If red smoke, it may mean rescue, di ba? If yellow or orange smoke, it may mean we need a resupply of ammunition, di ba? Or resupply. So this is an example of a mechanical explosive, di ba? Enclosed container. Tapos sisindihan niya. Yan. So abot yung sindi sa loob. So that's your pipe bomb. A mechanical explosive. So kaya siya pipe bomb kasi pipe yung container and nilagyan lang ng explosive sa loob. Tapos nilagyan lang ng daanan, kumbaga parang anvil in your ammunition, daanan ng apoy. So that's your low explosives. Now let's talk about high explosives. Most are molecules in high explosives. It requires no confinement. Okay? So nasabi ko na rin to kanina. It requires no confinement, no container. It is initiated by a shock wave. Yan, okay? So shock wave. So pwedeng yung signal lang ng cellphone, may shock wave na yon, di ba? It can already explode. Pwedeng vibration sensitive, nauga lang konti, pwedeng sasabog. So blasting caps or detonators, these are high explosives. So we have here non-electrical blasting caps and we also have electric blasting caps. These electric blasting caps uses batteries. Okay? While your non-electric blasting caps uses fires. Diba? So, pwede mong sindihan. Or pwedeng impact, martilyuhin. So that's our first type of high explosive, the blasting caps or detonators. And we also have the detonating cord. So, ganito naman ang itsura. Commercial detonating cord. So, may iba't ibang kulay siya. Unlike the military detonating cord, dark green ang kulay. We also have Flex X, the C4. Yan. So, titingnan nyo yung C4, parang ano lang siya. It can be molded. Parang clay lang. Dynamite. And we have your ammonium nitrate or ANFO. Okay? So, if you see ammonium nitrate like this, it is meant to be an explosive. Bakit? No, meron siyang ammonium tapos meron pa siyang detonating cord. Di ba? Pero pagka ammonio lang siya nakasako, nasa garden pa, that ammonia is used for fertilizer. So, we can also consider this mechanical explosive. Di ba? Homemade explosive. It is similarly created with pipe bomb. So we have here the chemical explosion effects. We have the blast pressure. We have primary and secondary blast pressure. So we have here an image. We have here the bomb on the left, chair, a table, a tree, and a wall. Okay, this is prior to the explosion. Now, this is how your primary blast pressure looks like, diba? So the bomb exploded and it threw the chair, the table, and it blew the tree and wall. Now, still under primary blast pressure, we have now the negative pressure phase. By the way, I forgot to mention, this is the positive pressure phase. Yan, so positive, tinapon niya palayo, di ba? Now, the negative pressure phase under primary blast pressure is the paghigop niya pabalik, di ba? Yan, so higop niya pabalik. We call it the negative pressure phase of an explosion. So this is how it looks like in another angle. So effects of an explosion, the incendiary or thermal effect, the burning or the heat effect, yan. So it shows shock waves and it also threw fragments. Yan. So take note, ladies and gentlemen, that we may be safe from the explosion but we can be hit by fragments also. Yan. Diba? So pwede rin tayong matamaan ng fragments. So what are fragments? Fragments may not necessarily be a part of the explosive device, but it also includes other materials, okay, that can be thrown away by the explosion. So we have here chemical explosion effects, the thermal or incendiary, the heat and the flame, yung pag-init at pagsunog. We also have the shock wave and the noise. So what's the noise? Yan, the bang sound. And the fragmentation. So ano yung fragmentation ulit? Yung pagtapon ng mga materyales. To include the part of the bomb or other non-part of the bomb. Yan. So a slow-mo video of an explosion. So blast pressure effects on human body. This may happen to all of us, of course. Okay? So, nakita nyo naman yan. What part of body is this? Yan, di ba? Kamay. Paa. Di ba? Yan. Body parts. Body parts. Tao. Yan o. Putol ng mga body parts. Putol. Intestines, lumabas, di ba? So this is the effect of a shock. Ito yung pwedeng mangyari sa EOD kahit na nakabamso siya, kompleto yung parts niya. Pero ito yung pwedeng mangyari. Mamimix yung kanyang internals. So protection from explosion effects. Shielding protects you from fragmentation and from burns or the incendiary effect. Distance protect us from fragmentation, incendiary, and overpressure or the shock. Yan. So safest is the distance. Dapat malapit tayo from the shock wave. Bakit? Kahit na malapit tayo, kahit nabuo yung katawan natin, pero pwede tayong mamatay because of the overpressure or the shock of the explosion. So I sure hope you don't have any question. Unless if in case you have a question or you have questions, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to throw your questions in our group chat or through the canvas. Okay? So that ends the brief introduction of explosives. Let's have 5 minutes break and again discuss the types of bombs.